well. So very excited to be here with all of you today and to be running this session. If you could let me know, go ahead and use the chat box that you have or the chat window that you have in your webinar tool that you're viewing this in right now, and let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and maybe even what kind of agency you run or what stage you're at in your agency journey. I think that would be really great. And then we can start to get a few comments trickling in just as we are waiting for a couple other people to tune in and join us. Often people join these things 1 or 2 minutes late, so I won't hang around for too long before getting started, but I would like to give everyone the chance to come and say hello and to be ready for today's session. And if you are watching this not live, you're not with us right now, but you're watching a replay of this somewhere, it's a real shame that we missed you, and I hope you can join the next one of these sessions live in real time. It can be really great to have some kind of back and forth Q&A and questions with everyone and just provide some support on the topic that we're running through. So if you are watching this on a replay, I really encourage you to join us live if you possibly can for the next session that we run. So if someone in the chat could let me know just that you can hear everything, you can see everything okay, and then we will kick things off once I hear from the first person in chat. It seems like the chat is a little bit quiet so far today. So I'm one of these webinar hosts where I'm going to try and engage all of you as much as possible. So please don't be scared. Don't hold back. Okay, great. I can see Cara is saying, yes, we are all good, which is awesome. So let's kick things off. Today, we're going to be talking about how to choose a niche for your agency. And we'll be covering 3 separate areas. So we'll talk about generalist agencies, niche agencies, full service agencies, the kind of range of different agency possibilities that are available out there. We'll touch a little bit on how to choose a niche for your agency, and then we'll cover common pros and cons when thinking about niches, niching down, choosing a niche, etc. And if at all you see me just looking over here a little bit, I just have some of my notes over here on the screen, so that will be why. But I would encourage everyone to utilize the chat section as much as you possibly can. Ask questions as we go. Niching down as an agency owner or founder is actually, to be honest, one of the things I really enjoy speaking about the most. And I could talk about this topic at length for hours. So I've tried to keep today's deck and slides pretty light and simple to make sure that I nail some key points, but I really would love to just have some open dialogue and conversation with some of you who are here live. I know it's a smaller group today, but if you are here and you're thinking about niching down, or I don't know, just the structure of your agency and business, now's a great time to make use of this small group that we have so that we can all support each other and help each other. So this is what we'll be covering today. Now, I think some of you here maybe haven't joined one of these sessions before, so you may be thinking, okay, but who is this guy that's talking to us and running us through this session? Why should we listen to him, or what does he know, or who is he, etc. So you'll be joining this webinar as part of the Agency Academy from PromoRepublic. Of course, that's how you found out about this session. But my name is actually Dylan Hay, and I do not work at PromoRepublic. I run my own agency. So I'm a co-founder and CEO of an agency called Hey Digital. And we are an agency, a completely remote team across 10 different countries, multiple time zones, with 12, or actually I think 13 full-time employees as of right now, and a number of contractors that we work with too. And we've been in business officially for about 3 years now. And the way that we are operating right now for the last year or 2 years, we've seen some good growth in terms of client base, in terms of team members, etc. And so we work solely with B2B SaaS companies. That's our core focus. And so this is one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk about niche and niche opportunities. We have a very firm niche of B2B SaaS businesses. I don't know if anyone here is aware of this, or knows much about this space, but we work with some of the bigger names in B2B SaaS, companies like Hotjar, for example, and the clients that we work with have gone on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, build some really great companies. And so we focus on their paid ads and CRO related work and creative that ties into that as well. And so the reason I'm running this session is I have a very good relationship with the team at PromoRepublic. A couple of years ago, we collaborated together on the first version of the agency Freelancer Academy. We did an online event, we did some webinars, etc. And PromoRepublic are really doing some great things within the social media marketing world and marketing world in general. One of the few companies that really devote time and energy to providing great content and educational content for their audience, in this case, specifically agency owners. And so they asked me if I could provide some support and lead some sessions. And I believe there's other hosts as well running sessions as part of the Agency Academy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'll give you some update on other upcoming sessions as well. And so we do this twice a month with me, where we have different topics each month that we run through. And I will have some slides that we'll talk through, but I also really love to engage with everyone who is here. And so the best webinars that we've done, I actually think the last webinar that we did was the best one, because we had, I think, joining us live, maybe 40 or 50 people. And we did a lot of kind of open back and forth Q&A throughout the presentation as well. So I know there's a smaller group today, but I really do encourage you, if you're here, to ask any questions that you have related to niches or just, to be honest, agency building. I would love to kind of freestyle with some of you and hopefully provide you with some support and guidance, depending on where you're at in your journey as well. So that's a quick, or trying to keep it as quick as possible, intro from me. I would love to just get straight into what we're talking about today and let the conversation and the content work for itself. And I see Dina in the chat says, I recently became a freelancer working with clients from Latin America, the US, and Europe. So that's really awesome. Thank you for dropping that comment, and welcome to today's session. Just starting as a freelancer is super exciting. I remember just getting started 4 years ago, and it was a really exciting time. So welcome, thank you for dropping in and saying hello. So before we start talking about niches, I wanted to spend a little bit of time just clarifying some different types of ways that you can build your agency. And also sharing a couple of stories. I don't want to say that I'm an expert by any means, right? Because there are agencies out there much bigger than mine that have been around for a lot longer than me. But I'm just going to share some of our learnings from the last 3 years and some of the learnings we have from mentors around us through running much larger agencies as well. And maybe some of my stories and some of my learnings might support some of you to pick up things a little bit faster, maybe, or I think that's a good way of sharing things. So different types of agencies. There are many different ways to set up an agency. In my opinion, there are kind of 4 core agency types that I think about personally. So one of those is an agency that focuses on one specific service offering for one specific niche of customer. So right now, Hey Digital is expanding a little bit, but when we first started and up until now, we have focused on just paid ads. We say and CRO and creative, but that's part of the paid ads offering, right? So we focus just on paid ads and just for B2B SaaS companies. And so to me, that is a one offering, one niche of customer. And that is, in my mind, a niche agency, if you want to call it that, a niche specific agency. But there's also another couple of other types of business. So there could be, you focus on one specific service offering. So you just do paid ads, or you just do social media management and social media marketing. And you do that for multiple different types of customers. So you could work with realtors, you could work with SaaS companies, you could work with local businesses, whatever it may be, but you just offer one service. And that's not necessarily a niche agency, but you are kind of niche in terms of niche offering, right? You have one specific service that you offer. Then there is someone who offers multiple different services, but to one specific niche of customer. And I want to talk about this a little bit later on, because as Hey Digital has started to grow, we are slightly expanding the offering of our services, but still only working with the same types of companies. So I see us now as like B2B SaaS specialists in paid ads and CRO, but we're also now doing more one-time like CRO audits or design audits or copywriting now and again. And potentially in the future, we might look at other areas like organic stuff, email marketing, etc. And then there is what people would call a typical agency, or like a broad agency, or like a standard agency, which is focusing on multiple different service lines for multiple different types of customers. So you could do any kind of marketing for any kind of company, right? There are a lot of agencies out there. For those people who are tuned in, I know that the chat is a little quiet so far, but maybe you could let me know in the chat box what kind of agency you run. Are you running one service offering one type of customer? Are you running multiple types of customers, multiple service offerings? It would be really good to hear from a couple of you if we could. If not, also totally fine. But I'm just interested to see who we have, because I know, for example, Dina said, I've recently become a freelancer working with clients from all over. So it'd be very interesting to find out some more from you maybe, or other people here. Okay. And so Warren says, we service multiple types of customers and with multiple service offerings, not good. I actually don't think it's a bad thing, Warren. Like, this is something that I'm going to talk about later on in the deck. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I personally have a very strong preference for niche focus, and we'll talk about why a bit later on. But don't like judge yourself and say it's a bad thing, because there are very successful agencies out there offering all kinds of services to all kinds of businesses, right? It just depends on how you want to structure things internally. So yeah, this is actually perfect timing, right? I almost forgot that this slide was here, even though I have my speaker notes open on the screen next to me. So Warren, this is great for you. Like, before I share my story and some of our advice, like, in my mind, there is no right or wrong way to set up your agency. There are just different ways to do that. And I want to say thank you to Kara as well for sharing a little bit about the business that you're building. So offering entrepreneurship lessons to and social media management, training female entrepreneurs. That's really awesome. Joy says, I have a full continuum management and consulting company that provides services to the post-acute environment, focus on senior living. 5 main services. Dina says multiple types of customers and multiple services. Cool. Thank you everyone for sharing that. So let me share a little bit about my story. And I think tucked away in here, I'm really hopeful there will be some insight or learnings for you. And we'll get to pros and cons and other deep stuff a little bit later on as well. Yeah, let's do that. So this is, I just took this earlier today to slot this into the screen because I think it would not fill time, but be a good placeholder as I share a little bit about us. So this is a screenshot from our website. We haven't updated the copy on our website for nearly a year, and that's something that we are going to be changing. But you can see from the very beginning, it's very, very obvious. We decided to go down the niche focus route. We grow SaaS and B2B tech companies with paid ads and CRO. And so I wanted to share like why I made this decision and how I made this decision. And then a little bit later on, we'll talk about, like, I'm actually going to get to formulas for choosing a niche and pros and cons and stuff like that. But I want to share a little bit of our story. So the reason I chose SaaS as a niche, it's kind of twofold, or the reason I decided to niche down is twofold. So, and I don't want to cross over too many of my points from later on as well, but I knew that if I built an agency offering everything to everyone, it would be harder for me to differentiate myself early on. And I'm a true big believer in brand positioning and brand marketing. And I feel as though having this messaging, having this very clear focus, has helped position our agency as experts much, much faster, and helped us grow a lot quicker and work with some really great companies as well. And we'll talk more on that a little bit later on. So I did it for that reason. Like, I have always been very focused on brand building because I know how powerful that is. And I knew it'd be easier to tell a story this way. And to be honest, like, before setting up Hey Digital, I'd actually worked within 3 different SaaS companies within marketing and growth and sales. And I knew that even though I wasn't necessarily an expert, I knew that because I'd worked in some big SaaS companies and some exciting SaaS companies, like growing SaaS companies, I knew it'd be very easy for me to tell the story when we're pitching to new clients or building our marketing. Hey, I align with you. I know what you're going through because I've been in your position. or, hey, we have experience in SaaS companies. Like I've worked for some of the biggest and most exciting SaaS companies in the world. And immediately it's an anchor point to being on the same level. But obviously not everybody has that. So we're going to talk about some alternatives to this a little bit later on too. Other things I considered was that I just saw there was a real need for this service offering within that market. I saw that there weren't many competitors owning the space. And for me personally, I spent a lot of time building my own brand for a couple of years where like I was working in SaaS in that world and I was connecting with people in that world, doing webinars, podcasts, events in this world for a couple of years, that it would have seemed like a waste to me to then just change on to something different. Like I would utilize that network. Now, one thing I do want to make clear, because sometimes people say, okay, well, you already had a brand or you'd already built your audience or whatever else. Yes, I had somewhat of a brand within SaaS, nothing super major, but I did have some brand there, some brand equity, if you want to call it that. However, I wasn't a true expert at paid ads. It was just something that I'd done a few times before and I knew I could build a great business around. So please never let being an expert or having to spend years building your brand be a blocker for you. So these are a couple of things that I just wanted to share from our story. And I think this is what's enabled us to work with some of the best SaaS companies in the world to start to build a really great and enjoyable environment for our team and everything else. Is just having this laser focus from day one has been so powerful for us because we just didn't have to try too many different things when we first started. Now I see a couple of questions. So Joy says, if you discuss websites, can you give your insight on platform, WordPress versus Wix? So I'm no expert in this. It's not something that I look after, Joy, but our team, for our own Hey Digital website, we use this tool called Webflow, or this CMS called Webflow. It's pretty popular. So if you go to webflow.com, you will see Webflow. And then for landing pages for our clients, we use a tool called Unbounce when we're building landing pages for paid ads campaigns. So that's my personal experience there. Hopefully that helps you out, Joy. So this is a little bit about my story. I also wanted to share, and I can put this in the chat. I'm just going to get my link for this. So just to show you that I've been like so focused on this message and truly believing in this way of doing things for a long time. I recorded this YouTube video back in 2018. I put 2019 in the title for SEO purposes back then, but back in 2018, talking about choosing a niche for your agency. It's a 13-minute video. I would also recommend checking that out if you're intrigued. I shared the link in the webinar chat. Hopefully you can see that, or if you just search Dylan Hay on YouTube, you'll find it. I have not posted on YouTube for maybe 3 years now, so there's not much recent content on there. So any content that you do see will be from when we very first started building our business, our agency. So might be interesting to take a look at that. So when I was trying to put together like, okay, some top level ideas or formulas even for how you can choose a niche or select a niche, taking into account some of the things that I suggested or shared with you already, I thought, okay, let's break it down into 5 steps. So number 1, evaluate your skills and passions. And now when I say this, a lot of people say only do what you love. I very, very, very strongly disagree with that. Personally, I'm a bit weird with that kind of topic or sentence, but I don't believe that you should only do what you love. You do whatever you want, right? But I think when you are first starting, I want you to evaluate your skills and passions, because if you're passionate about something from the beginning, you're more likely to keep that interest in it. However, I also want you to think about, okay, consider the future, because if you're really passionate about running paid advertising, or you're really passionate about managing social media accounts, if you have an agency and a team of 10 people, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be managing ads accounts or managing social media scheduling. Your team will be doing that. So also consider, when you're thinking about building your agency, your business, choosing a niche, etc., just consider like, okay, is this something I'm enjoying now, but my future role, is it something that I will still be confident to work within or enjoy? So that's something really important that I think a lot of people miss. When I started my agency, I never started with me being the only person running ads. I hired someone from the very, very beginning. And we have a very skilled paid media team now, a skilled design team, etc. And so like, if my passion was managing and building ad campaigns, I would be sad right now because I haven't built an ad campaign personally in probably a year and a half or 2 years. My role is focused on other things, right? So this is something I think important to consider when first starting out. And evaluating your skills is like, okay, do you have a skill set or experience in a certain niche or certain industry or with a specific service offering that you can utilize to jumpstart your progress? Then the second thing is evaluate whether or not there's a market requirement for your services. There are so many ways to do this. You can even do things like, of course, you can talk to people. Like for me, it was very easy because I was talking with many SaaS senior marketers, so I just asked them outright. You could do the same if you're thinking about going into a new niche. Let's say you want to try working with realtors, managing their social media. Reach out to 20 realtors, ask them, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is it something that would help you or something that you need or whatever? But then you can also start to utilize different tools to help you. You can do organic traffic research. You can use things like Google Trends, for example. You could go to Google Trends and you could start, when you're thinking about your niche, you could start exploring if it's growing in terms of search volume, if it's trending, etc. So for example, let's say I wanted to do paid ad, like I know this is pretty broad, but paid advertising. But let's say Facebook ads, right? Facebook ads. And if we take a look at that, let's see what the trends are like for Facebook ads over the last couple of years, slightly trending upwards, I guess. I don't know what this is. Could probably do this in a better way, right? But Facebook social media service, take a look at the trends, or you could look at things like if it's a niche. So for example, I have some friends, and we'll talk about going deeper in niches later on, but let's say you wanted to work with only outdoor brands. You could take a look at search traffic for outdoor brands, or you could take a look at like matcha tea, for example, and more people searching for matcha over the last couple of years. For some reason, this data isn't looking. It's because I've set it to Estonia, which is where I am. This is why. If we go worldwide, we'll see more data. So you can use things like Google Trends. You can use Google Search Insights. So for example, you could say, me, I'm a PPC agency, like SaaS PPC agency, right? So you can search SaaS PPC agency. And you could see, okay, I have this extension called Keyword Surfer, which helps me see keyword traffic volumes, etc. over time, and the number of searches for this each month, like SaaS PPC, PPC for SaaS. You can see a couple hundred searches in the US. And I can also use this to look at competition. You see Hey Digital here, which is really great. So you can use different tools to help you is one thing that I'm getting at. You can talk to your market, you talk to these people individually, etc. Does that make sense? Just want to check in because I haven't, I've been speaking a little bit, so just want to check in there. Just give me a yes in the comment section if we're all good still. And then I want you to also consider narrowing down your niche even further. So let's say you've decided your niche is SaaS companies like me. I've decided, okay, my niche is SaaS. Now what? So I narrowed down the niche by then niching into a service. So when I first started, I was like, okay, we'll do marketing for SaaS companies. Then I narrowed into paid ads for SaaS companies, then paid ads and CRO for B2B SaaS companies. And now as time's gone on, we've now narrowed down further into like paid ads, CRO, and creative for B2B SaaS companies that have raised financing or are at X million plus annual recurring revenue. So you can like niche within your niche, right? Or an example is, okay, you could work with, your niche could be e-commerce, but then niching down further, it could be instead of, okay, we do paid ads for e-commerce, it could be we do paid advertising for direct to consumer e-commerce brands, or it could be we do paid advertising or we do social media management for direct to consumer beauty brands or something like that. Like you can niche within your niche. And when you do this, your positioning can become even stronger. And I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this in a second, because I really want to go a little bit deeper into those, because these are super important. You then want to check the competitive landscape. So you can do basically, if you've selected your niche, like I showed with SaaS PPC agency, I would go and then look at, okay, how many competitors are there? Not note them all down, but just take a look at who are the biggest people in the space. How are they doing from what I can see? Like, what are their team sizes? What kind of clients do they work with? How are they approaching things? How are they doing their marketing? If you want, you can even be a little bit sneaky and like go through their sales process or talk to them or whatever it may be. So check the competitive landscape. You can pull so many insights from what the competition are doing. I have a very open and friendly relationship with our main competitors. Like, I talk to them often. We share advice with each other because we're aware that this niche is big enough for multiple agencies to work in, and it's a better environment for all of us if we actually help each other a little bit. So checking the competitive landscape, you can learn a lot when you do that, and it can really help you when choosing a niche. And then finally, test your offer. Like, you're not going to get it right from the beginning. As I said, we started with marketing for SaaS companies, and we found out that some of what we were doing just wasn't right for us, wasn't right for the client. And we've narrowed down over time. Our offer has evolved over time as well. And that's something like, test your offer, pitch it to people, see what they think, get their feedback. If you have a little bit of money to spend, I don't know what your budgets are like, but you can also use this website. This tool, we actually use this for our clients as well. It's called winter.com, and you can run a messaging test, and you can select people. Like, I'll actually just sign in real quick and show you an example. We've done this for example, you could say, okay, I want to get this was another agency, and they did a messaging test where they shared their homepage with 15 people within their target segment, and they got feedback from them about, okay, after reading this, what's still unclear? You can see all these different feedback points here. Biggest doubt about the offer. Would you agree to this? What do you like most? Etc. Something like this can help you speed up that process too. I think the pricing for winter is maybe starting from around $700. I'm not certain. Let's see. Maybe 700 to 1,000 for an initial test. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It looks like it may have even changed recently because it was like a one-off cost before. But anyway, that's another idea for how you can test your offer or test your messaging if you have some budget available. Okay, so we have covered a few things about niches. And now the question is, should you choose a niche when you start your agency? And like I said earlier, I believe it was, what was the person? Warren. To Warren, there definitely isn't a right or wrong answer here about whether you should choose a niche. However, in my opinion, like, whenever someone asks me, hey, I'm starting an agency, should I have a niche focus? Personally, my answer is always a resounding yes. But I don't believe that's the right way, or I don't believe that's the only way. I know there are other ways, but my experience has been amazing with this. And I really strongly believe that choosing a niche can really help you accelerate your growth. So let's look at and discuss some of the pros and cons to choosing a niche for your agency. And I would really encourage, if anyone has questions, please drop them in the chat. I actually only have one more slide after this, so I'll run through pros and cons. I'll probably talk about that for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I have a little something to share with everyone who sticks around to the end. So I'd encourage everyone to stick to the end. I just have an update about a future webinar that we're going to be running, which I think you'll be interested in. And we do still have 15 minutes of time available from right now. So love doing questions, Q&A, etc. So if you have questions, I really encourage you to get them in now, and I won't miss them because I have the chat over here, which is what I'm looking at. So pros and cons, right? Now, I can share an article for people if they would like, which has some more detail on other pros and cons. Let's go with pros first, though. And so I think a lot of this will be not too surprising to you based on what I've shared already. So if you choose a niche, you are, in my opinion, going to have much faster traction in the market, because if you choose a niche, your own marketing and sales strategy is like nearly already laid out for you, because you know exactly who to target, you know where to reach them, you know what their pain points are. Like, let's say, for example, you wanted to target gyms. choosing a niche like CrossFit would make it easier to gain traction because you can work with just CrossFit companies, right? And it would give you direction for building case studies, sales material, referrals. It's easier to network because you can reach out to other brands in that niche. And so I think it helps you get much faster traction in a market rather than having to test like 50, or not 50, but having to test lots of different messaging and lots of different ideas for who you service and what your offering is and wait until one or two of them stick. I think having a niche, you can get faster traction if it works, of course. Number two is that you can have hyper-targeted marketing and positioning. So my experience and from other friends in this space and other companies that I know is if you don't have a niche, it's more likely that you will attract a higher volume of leads. You might get high volume of leads, but it's likely you have a lower conversion rate and often a lower average order value or a lower average revenue per client. And that's because the marketing isn't as targeted. So the leads can be all over the place and you don't build the expert level brand or identity as quickly as you would do if you had a niche focus. So choosing a niche enables you to develop like hyper personalized content for different audience segments. So you can make content based on day-to-day problems these people face, based on their even browsing behavior or interests and things like this. And you can speak directly to their pain points in everything that you do. So like every blog post you write, every LinkedIn post, every interview, every update about your company, you can be talking to specific pain points of these people in the specific industry. Whereas if you're focusing wide, you can't speak directly to people as much. And so choosing a niche helps you become hyper targeted with your marketing and messaging. And that in turn helps you attract higher quality leads, which then in turn leads to higher values per client. So instead of charging a couple $100 a month, you can be charging thousands every single month. I think if we were to run paid ads for any kind of companies, I would imagine the average price point would probably be maybe $2,000-3,000, but we're charging between $5,000 and $11,000 roughly, depending on our clients right now, because we have a niche focus, we have this experience, and we've built this brand in a niche. And so that also ties into selling becoming easier, because like when you only work with specific industries and specific companies, you build or like your reputation, your authority, and then in turn your clients develop this snowball effect, right? So let's say you take on one client in this niche and that client is happy with what you do for them. You then build a case study around that client. You then use that case study to generate more. You use the content that you create to generate more clients in this industry. People start talking, they'll give you referrals, and it's all within the same space. And then we'll get to operations in a minute, but it all like snowballs into each other, right? So, yeah, I think having this focus will really help you with your selling. And it also makes it easier to build momentum in closing leads, because if you're not focusing on a niche, it can be hard to explain why you're the best fit for this client, because you will have different things that you need to pitch to different clients depending on the industry that they're in. Whereas for us, as an example, just working with SaaS companies, like we can just replicate the same process for most of our clients. And also if you're up against, think about it, if let's say my ideal client, if a SaaS CMO is looking for a paid ads agency, and they're talking with an agency that works with multiple different companies, different types and niches of companies, and they're talking with my team who's purely focused on B2B SaaS, we get an advantage from the get-go in that sales process too. And then the fourth point, and to be honest, probably the most important, is that your operations are so much smoother. If you don't have a niche, you have to create new processes from scratch with most clients, or at least you have to have multiple different processes for different offerings, for different industries, etc. And you have to evaluate the unique needs and problems and figure out different setups each time. Whereas when you have a niche focus, you're likely to have built one process or a couple of processes that can be rinse and repeat for clients, and you know they're going to work because you have this very core focus. And this is going to lead you to improving your profit margins because your operations will be smoother, having a happier team, and being able to charge more. And so for me, like, I'm very heavily focused on the pros of niching down, as hopefully you can all see. But like I said, it's not a right way or a wrong way to do things. There are some negatives, such as your minimizing the size of the potential market available to you immediately. But I think there's plenty to go around. You're likely to have fewer leads than if you are doing everything for everyone. And some degree of experience is needed to jump into a niche. However, that doesn't have to be you. It can be someone that you hire, just to make that clear. And it can take longer to generate revenue. So I actually have a couple of friends building agencies that have gone deep into niche focus over the last couple months, and they've turned away revenue and turned away money from clients outside of that niche. And so it can, at the beginning, maybe make it feel like it's going to take longer for you to build your business and generate additional revenue. And that may suck when you first get started. It doesn't always happen that way, but I just want to be transparent that if you go niche from the beginning, like, you'll have to turn down potential clients and turn away revenue. And I know that's hard as a first-time business owner or when you're first getting started, but in the long term, it's much, much, much better for you.